Commitment. This word can be used to describe many groups that Maranatha encounters around the world. Women who walk for miles, risking their lives for a few drops of water. Children determined to learn in cramped classrooms. Believers who commune with God in inconvenient spaces. It's their commitment, despite their circumstances, that drives our desire to provide change in the form of life-giving water. Bright learning spaces. And inviting sanctuaries. Today on Maranatha Mission Stories, we'll visit two congregations whose commitment to spread the gospel wasn't deterred by less than ideal circumstances. We'll also hear from seasoned project coordinator Greg Hatch about what drives him to lead multiple mission trips a year. But first, let's head to the mountains of Peru. The Southern Highlands. A vast collection of nature's skyscrapers and kaleidoscopic plains. These granite peaks are the central segment of South America's Andes mountain chain. Running all the way from Venezuela to southern Chile, this range is the longest in the world and the second tallest. There's a sense of solitude among its lofty spires, as if all its inhabitants are long lost to the passage of time. Nothing but stone dwellings to monument their existence. But this air of isolation exists only from a distance. Closer inspection reveals valleys speckled with small communities. This speck is called Sicuani. The town sits almost 12,000 feet above sea level and is home to roughly 54,000 people. Despite its relatively sparse oxygen and long-necked livestock, life in Sicuani isn't too different from life anywhere else. Residents spend most of their time earning a living, often through agricultural means. They grow fruit, vegetables, and grains to sell at local markets. They also herd sheep, cows, llamas, and alpacas. Alpaca fleeces are water and flame resistant, and especially soft, warm, and durable. For these reasons, they generally fetch higher prices at market than other wool products. Like many other cultures, it is primarily Sicuani's older generations who keep historical customs alive. They speak Quechua, the language of the Inca people who inhabited this region centuries ago. And their traditional outfits are a fusion of indigenous and colonial influences. Most Sicuani residents are religious, Catholic to be more specific. They attend weekly mass and frequent festivals, celebrations, and parades. Much like Sicuani is wedged between mountains, the Seventh-day Adventist Church there is dwarfed by a Catholic majority. But its 800 Adventist members are passionate, and the church is growing. This growth started in the early 2000s, when the pastor of the Central Adventist Church, Sicuani's only Adventist church at the time, used an unexpected evangelism strategy. One Sabbath, he locked his own congregation out of church.
Él lo cerró la iglesia, porque prácticamente estábamos ya llenitos ahí, llenos, ya inclusive rebalsando. Inclusive dijo, se van a distintos lugares, vayan, busquen lugar donde estar. Y nosotros somos producto de eso.
Sergio is the leader for one of the 5 congregations that formed as a result of the Central Church Pastors' demonstration. They meet in a neighborhood called Los Lirios. They have a healthy membership and passion for worship, but something else was missing. They had nowhere to meet, no building, no space. Their only option was the outdoors, where they spent every Sabbath in a field. And building a structure to meet in was simply out of the group's economic capability.
Las personas que asisten aquí son personas humildes, pero ellos sí vienen aquí cada sábado, vienen desde sus lugares de este origen, vienen aquí a pasar el sábado.
Meeting in a field with no protection from the elements was not ideal, so Sergio offered up his courtyard. But it didn't solve every issue.
Ya estamos 4 años aquí y la dificultad fuerte es el sol, el frío, la lluvia, ¿no? A veces el sol, nos hemos puesto esas arpilleras arriba, pero igual el sol caía, ¿no? Y luego la lluvia. Cuando llovía a veces no sabíamos qué hacer.
On rainy days, the group could be found packed inside Sergio's house like sardines. But Los Lirios members had no other option, so Sergio's courtyard it was. Across town, a different branch of the Central Church meets in a neighborhood called Rosapata. This group had the same problem as Los Lirios.
Económicamente, no hay un ingreso estable. De nuestra población adventista, aproximadamente el 20 o el 25% es profesional, el resto no. Entonces no tenemos un ingreso estable.
With not enough money to construct their own building, Rosapata members met in a head elder's home, which came with its own set of discomforts.
Todo es cemento, ¿no? Entonces es frío y no tenemos luz natural, como sí lo podríamos acá. A la vez es reducido, el espacio es reducido.
The Los Lirios and Rosapata congregations needed better meeting spaces to properly accommodate their members, but also to improve Adventism's reputation amongst a strong Catholic presence. In Sicuani, Catholic celebrations occur almost daily, and sometimes Adventists are penalized for not joining the festivities.
Incluso en las comunidades se cobra una multa cuando un miembro de la comunidad no participa de esas costumbres, de las fiestas, de sus tradiciones, le cobran una multa. Entonces muchos hermanos, por evitar esa multa, son partícipes, y entonces ahí ese es otro problema que tenemos.
Members also bear an economic burden for not doing business on Sabbath.
Anteriormente, inclusive ahora mismo, los sábados es la plaza donde hay bastante negocio aquí en Sicuani. Los hermanos a veces se van a comprar, regresan y casi no se puede guardar con tranquilidad lo que es el sábado.
During the summer of 2024, help came in the form of 75 high schoolers on Ultimate Workout, who constructed buildings for both the Los Lirios and Rosapata congregations. Church members had given so much. Time, dedication, and even their own homes. but it was now time for them to receive. Block by block, the teens transformed their worship experience.
Hay muchas cosas que ustedes podrían escuchar ahorita.
De verdad que ellos están alegres, están contentos y felices porque ya no vamos a sentir el frío, el sol ni la lluvia.
Without Maranatha's help, constructing church buildings was simply impossible for these congregations.
Veíamos lejano por la economía de los miembros. Era imposible para nosotros, mas no para Dios.
But they now have beautiful buildings that stand out in their neighborhoods and bring legitimacy to their faith.
Como pastor me siento muy contento, muy alegre. Para mí también es un sueño hecho realidad. En este lugar no teníamos presencia adventista y hoy tenemos una luz que puede brillar en este lugar.
Adventism in Sequani, like the town itself, lies in the shadow of a giant. So small in comparison that it can be hard to notice. But also like Sequani, the church is bustling with life. It's a beautiful community to those who call it home. It's a place of warmth to escape the cold. A fire that's growing for generations to come. When we come back, we'll talk to veteran project leader Greg Hatch and learn more about his Maranatha journey from preteen volunteer to committed mission trip coordinator.
Today on Maranatha Mission Stories, we have longtime Maranatha volunteer Greg Hatch in the studio to talk about effective mission trip leadership. Greg, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you've led dozens of mission trips with Maranatha over the years through your church, the West Houston Seventh-day Adventist Church in Texas. I'm curious though how you first got involved with missions.
So my parents have been involved with Maranatha in some form or fashion since 1980. They were involved. Roger Hatch, who's still a board member, he got them involved, and so in the early 80s there were a lot of work on the island of Dominica, and so I went down there with them for a couple of trips when I was like 11 and 12. I mean, you know, as a kid it's fun and it's interesting, but it didn't really stick with me, and so I didn't do another one until 2001. Roger came down to my church with my parents, and he had this pet project he wanted to do in Nicaragua, and so he invited me and my church to get a few people together and to get that started, and I did, and I was hooked. And so we've been doing trips ever since.
What was it like leading your first Maranatha mission trip as the leader?
So I co-led with my dad for the first few, but the first one I did in 2006 with solo. It was a great trip. I mean, it really was. We had a great group. It was a great location. But it's different when you know that it's on you, and it's all on you. You don't have anybody to fall back on. And so it was a little bit daunting, especially on the construction side, because he had been leading him previously, but having that mentorship, having that leadership, things went very well, and we continue to learn each trip new things to do.
What did you learn in subsequent trips? I mean, what are some of the things that you've grown in as a leader on mission trips?
My team might disagree with me, but I actually have become more patient, slightly more empathetic. But you learn that trying to make the teams as most efficient as you can on the job site, and trying to create the environment where the volunteers can get to know each other in the evenings and to forge those relationships and to have that space to do that.
You know, every mission trip leader is different in how they organize a mission trip. How do you go about kind of putting together the plan that you have for your project?
A lot of reuse of what we've done in the past. For years, I did project management for very large technology implementations. So a lot of that rigor comes into our planning, and it takes a long time. So you have to take that long-range view and to get those big items set in place first, like the airline ticket, like the dates, and once you have those set, you can start working everything else around. And working with the Maranatha teams, setting up the communication vehicles that work the best for them on ground so that you can go back and forth and communicate before and after the site visit.
You talk about those site visits. How important are those to you as a project leader? What kind of value do you put on those?
I put a lot of value on those for a variety of reasons. One, I don't like surprises, right? A lot of my role at work prior to now has been risk mitigation and quality assurance and risk management. And so a site visit can reduce some of that risk. It reduces some of the unknowns. And I'm better able to explain to our volunteers, here's what you're getting into, here's what to expect, here's the congregation, what their needs are, here's what this church or school or whatever building we're constructing, what it's going to mean to them. And that helps set the stage for the rest of the time that we're there. And also just getting the lay of the land, literally, right? And understanding, how hot is it going to be? What type of environment do we have? And what type of space are we working in? And what type of space are we living in?
Now, you can do all the risk mitigation you want, but sometimes things come up on trips. So
always.
What is maybe one of your most challenging mission trips that you've led and something that's come up?
Yeah, well, outside of the Côte d'Ivoire COVID experience, which is a subject of an entirely different mission story, which of course we encourage you to watch.
That's true.
We had an experience in 2007 in Ecuador. Beautiful location, great pastor, great team. We get there that first Sabbath, we're worshiping with the local church members. They want to prepare a meal for us, and we oblige and partake. And it was a great meal with some potatoes, so these big ears of corn, and a local cheese. Well, unbeknownst to everybody, it was a local unpasteurized cheese with things that our body is not used to. I was not eating cheese at that point in time, so I didn't have it. But basically everybody else except myself and one other person who grew up in Jamaica and has every thing known to man in their system already, they didn't get sick, but everybody else did. And so for the rest of the week after Sunday, people were sick the entire time and getting IVs on the way to work, during lunchtime, in the evening, and that team was so great.
It's a committed group.
It was a very committed group. And then that last day, electricity went out, the saw blade lost all of its diamond crusting, so it wasn't cutting. Rain was coming, and we prayed about it. All of us will still swear that God stopped time for a few hours. The rain literally parted, went around the church. The saw started working, electricity came on, and we were able to finish. And it was incredibly impactful for our group. So out of those challenges come some of our greatest stories, and that really proved to our group, if there was any doubt before, that God is in charge of these trips. He is the one getting the work done and making a way even when some of these challenges pop up.
Oh my goodness.
So we're always very leery of cheese to this day.
I guess so, that makes sense. Your teams generally accomplish a lot on Maranatha mission trips. I mean, your groups usually are ones that are finishing buildings and doing quite a bit. Why is that? What emphasis do you put on that? I guess after that first mission trip,
everybody wanted to get done.
Hey, if they can do it on that one, then we can.
Well, but the first thing we have to start with is understanding that we're not the ones doing it. It is God doing it through us. And we as a group have to continue remembering that. Once we start with that, the rest of it gets a lot easier. God gives us all abilities. We have to use those. And for me as a leader, I have to make sure that I'm looking ahead and trying to understand what's next so that our volunteers aren't waiting. And that's one of the things that we do. We also have usually have a very committed group. They have seen what, like you mentioned, they've seen what the groups have done in the past. And also meeting with those church members in advance understanding the value that they place on whatever we are constructing is motivation, because we know that what they're going to use it for to God's glory, and that makes us want to get it done. But it is God working through us, and then just making sure that we're thinking ahead and that the group stays properly motivated.
As a leader, what is your favorite part about leading these mission trips?
I like to have a lot of different ministries. Maranatha is a construction-centered ministry, and I'm a construction-centered guy, and so I lead our construction team. So for me, the feeling when we know that the block work or the roof or whatever the final part is completed, that's my kind of moment where I like to go and do something very menial and just kind of zen out and like, hey, this is it, we're done. And you get such a sense of satisfaction from God having allowed us to do that, the little things that I do at that point, and the dedication or whatever service they have after that, typically on Sabbath, is really the high point for me for the week, is seeing it completed and seeing how appreciative those members are of the work that the volunteers have put into that building.
Now, you have decades of experience leading mission trips, and
you're making me feel old.
We can't get into all of the experiences that you've had over the years, but if there is someone out there that is watching this that is thinking, you know what, I want my church or I want my school to have that experience with Maranatha on a mission trip, what advice do you have for them if they're feeling like it's a little overwhelming to try to do that on their own?
Well, first ask for help, right? I mean, Maranatha has a great volunteer department that can help with that. But if you feel like you can't do it on your own, join up with another church who is established, right? We've had that before where we'll have a church send 10 people with us, right, to get the feel for it, and then maybe start their own, and they've done that. Or have somebody who is experienced come and learn from them, be kind of a mentor for them and help them get their trip off the ground. And I've done that as well with some groups.
Well, Greg, you're an inspiration to everyone that's ever tried to lead a mission trip before. Thank you for being out there and working in the Maranatha mission field, and thank you for being on Maranatha Mission Stories today.
Well, thank you. Glad to do it.
Each year, Maranatha builds hundreds of church structures of all types all around the world, and commitment is tied to all parts of our work. From congregations who faithfully meet each week, praying for better circumstances, to the volunteers who affirm their faith through the construction of new churches. But none of this is possible without your support. You can show your commitment as well. Give so that more congregations can have proper places of worship. Join an upcoming project and be the hands and feet of Jesus. These vital efforts help to offer hope and encouragement to people who need it most.